You ever watch something so bafflingly bad that you start to question whether it was made by professionals or stitched together in a lab by monkeys with head trauma? That's Dragon Ball GT. A show so confused about its own identity, it feels less like a sequel and more like a Saturday morning parody of something that you used to love. Dragon Ball is easily one of the most iconic anime and manga series of all time. It spawned a mountain of video games, card games, action figures, movies, both animated and live action. Yes, there is more than one live action Dragon Ball movie, and enough memorabilia to fill a warehouse. Even after the passing of its creator, Dragon Ball remains a franchise that fans just can't seem to let go of. But let's be honest, no matter how beloved a series is, there's always one thing that fans collectively hate. For Dragon Ball, that's Dragon Ball GT. And today, I'm here to talk about why. Despite having a few good moments, GT just plain sucks. Now let's be clear, Dragon Ball is a juggernaut. It's a cultural institution with decades of world building, fights that break the laws of physics, and characters that basically raised a generation. Akira Toriyama's creation became a global powerhouse, and then, for reasons still unknown to science, Dragon Ball GT happened. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's not canon, bro. Yeah, no shit, but that doesn't mean it gets a free pass. GT still carried the Dragon Ball name, and for a while, it was the only continuation we had post-Z, which means it had every opportunity to succeed, and it blew it spectacularly. But before I dive too deep, I want to lay out a few disclaimers. I am a fan of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. To be fair, I haven't watched the original Dragon Ball nearly as thoroughly as I have seen DBZ. I've watched all 291 episodes of DBZ and even went through Dragon Ball Z Kai, which is basically a trimmed down version with the filler cut out. But until the making of this video, I had never actually forced myself to sit through all of GT, and considering it's only 64 episodes long, each around 20 minutes, the fact alone should tell you something about my initial feelings towards the series. When I told my 8-year-old son I was making a video called Why Dragon Ball GT Sucks, he punched me in the arm and told me, it doesn't. That moment made me pause and ask myself, am I being too harsh? So I decided to give it a real shot. Looking back, I wasn't always a Dragon Ball fan. I remember seeing ads for DBZ on Saturday mornings and laughing at the name Dragon Ball Z. What kind of title is that? And the character designs? At the time, I thought they looked goofy. Definitely not on par with the Western cartoons I was into. Then Toonami happened. I got hooked, but not just on DBZ, but on everything. Gundam Wing, Big O, Outlaw Star, Tenchi Muyo, Sailor Moon, you name it, I was into it. But when Goku went Super Saiyan for the first time, I absolutely lost my mind. At 12 years old, I probably would have been hyped for any continuation of the story. But fast forward to me in my 30s sitting down to finally watch GT, and man, it just kept getting worse. I can't believe how different everything felt. Eventually I stopped watching entirely. Something was just off. But for the sake of this video, I committed to finishing the whole thing, all 64 episodes, beginning to end. So let's start at the beginning, the very beginning. Dragon Ball was created by Akira Toriyama in 1984 and ran until 1995. It was serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump, a legendary manga magazine that hosted other juggernauts like One Piece, Naruto, and Demon Slayer. Over time, the series was compiled into volumes so readers could enjoy the story in a more binge-friendly format. Now, here's where things start to get interesting. In 1986, Dragon Ball was adapted into an anime which ran until 1996. It was followed up almost immediately by Dragon Ball GT, which aired from 1996 to 1997. The Dragon Ball anime was split into two distinct shows. Toei Animation decided to rebrand the later arcs as a new series entirely, Dragon Ball Z, which I will refer to as DBZ from here on out. The reason? The tone shifted dramatically, from fun adventures with Kid Goku to world-ending battles and more serious themes. The tonal shift really kicked in towards the end of Dragon Ball, especially during Goku's brutal fight against Piccolo Jr. in the World Martial Arts Tournament where he nearly died. This rebranding turned out to be a smart move. DBZ was treated like a fresh series, making it more accessible for new fans who didn't want to watch the original Dragon Ball in its full 153 episode run. It worked brilliantly. You didn't need to know Goku's childhood adventures to understand DBZ. The new tone, the new villains, the escalating stakes all helped the series stand on its own. And for Toriyama, DBZ was meant to be the end. The Z, the last letter of the alphabet, literally signified finality. For those of you who don't know, Dragon Ball follows the life of a young, monkey-tailed boy named Son Goku, though I'll just be calling him Goku from here on out. He starts off living a peaceful life isolated in the mountains after the mysterious passing of his grandfather Gohan. But that quickly changes when he embarks on an action-packed adventure to collect 7 magical orbs known as Dragon Balls. When gathered, these orbs summon a dragon capable of granting any wish the user desires. On his journey, Goku meets a wide cast of characters. Some become close friends and allies, others are villains who want the Dragon Balls for world domination. From here, the series becomes a wild ride of martial arts tournaments, cosmic threats, and some of the most iconic moments in anime history. Dragon Ball Z picks up where Dragon Ball left off. Goku is now an adult, married with a son, and still training and fighting alongside his friends. But the threats ramp up significantly. The story expands to reveal Goku is actually an alien from a warrior race called the Saiyans, and he was originally sent to Earth to wipe it clean of life. Thankfully, a head injury as a child erased his evil instincts, turning him into the lovable, pure-hearted goof we all know. Over time, Goku battles increasingly powerful foes, aliens, androids, demons, literal gods, and even manages to turn former enemies into allies. After years of escalating stakes, the series ends 10 years after the defeat of Majin Buu with a peaceful return to Earth and a familiar plot beat: the World Martial Arts Tournament. At this final tournament, Goku encounters a boy named Oob, the reincarnation of Majin Buu now in human form. Instead of fighting him seriously, Goku sees Oob's potential and decides to train him. He flies off with the boy to help him unlock his power so he can one day protect the universe. This is where Dragon Ball GT begins. But before we dive into the synopsis, let's talk about the key differences between GT and the shows that came before it, because those differences are a big reason why GT feels so off. Unlike Dragon Ball and DBZ, which were based on Akira Toriyama's original manga, Dragon Ball GT had no manga counterpart. That's a huge deal. To back it up a bit, Toriyama originally created Dragon Ball as a modern reimagining of the Chinese novel Journey to the West, which follows a monk traveling with demons to stop an ancient evil. But as the manga went on, Toriyama started drifting away from the original concept and focusing on telling his own story, one that eventually evolved into Dragon Ball Z. That personal creative touch is what helped the series stay consistent. Toriyama wrote and illustrated the manga himself, and while the anime adaptations of Dragon Ball and DBZ had multiple screenwriters, Toriyama remained deeply involved. He helped guide the tone, direction, and character arcs, something that's often missing when anime studios adapt a work without its creator's oversight, and that's exactly what happened to GT. GT wasn't written or drawn by Toriyama. Instead, it was an original story by Toei Animation, crafted by a group of writers: Aya Matsui, Atsushi Miyakawa, Toshinobu Oi, Junki Takigami, Masashi Kuboto, and Daisuke Yajami. Some of these writers had worked on DBZ, sure, but they weren't working off a manga. They were working from scratch. Now, adapting manga into anime has its own problems. Like when a show catches up to the manga and it has to invent filler arcs just to buy time. That happened with DBZ too, but GT didn't have that excuse. It wasn't trying to stay true to a manga. It was the source material. The writers could have gone in any direction they wanted, and somehow they still got it wrong. So what happened in GT that made it such a mess? Let me walk you through the story, and I'll keep it brief, because trust me, you don't want me recapping every pointless side quest. We've got plenty of bad decisions to talk about today. Dragon Ball GT opens 5 years after Goku and Oob leave the World Martial Arts Tournament to train at Kami's Lookout? No. It's Dende's Lookout now, my bad. The two are wrapping up their training when we're suddenly introduced to Emperor Pilaf and his gang, Mai and Shu. These guys go all the way back to Goku's early adventures in the original Dragon Ball. And now they're clumsily scaling the lookout using mech suits. Why? Because they've discovered a mysterious set of Dragon Balls known as the Black Star Dragon Balls. Now, these are your average wish-granting orbs. These bad boys were apparently created before Kami and Piccolo split into two beings, which supposedly makes them more powerful, and way more dangerous. So dangerous, in fact, that no one's even talked about them since the original Dragon Balls were introduced. But sure, now they exist again. Pilaf and his crew summon this alternate Shenron, and of course, Goku, being the nosy guy he is, senses something's up and goes to investigate. After a brief but frankly pathetic scuffle, Pilaf mutters something about how he wishes Goku were still a little kid, like back when they first met, so he could show him a thing or two. And then Shenron grants the wish. Boom, Goku is transformed back into a child. It's the kind of accidental wish you'd expect from a senile old man yelling at clouds, and somehow it kicks off the entire plot of the show. After booting Pilaf and his crew off the lookout, Goku shrugs off the situation like it's just another Tuesday. He heads to grab some food and ignores King Kai's very serious warning that using the Black Star Dragon Balls comes with a massive consequence. If they're not returned to Earth within 1 year, the planet will be destroyed. And they're not even on Earth. They've scattered across the entire galaxy, so yeah, no big deal. Meanwhile, we shift gears and meet Pan, Goku's granddaughter, daughter of Gohan and Videl. And look, I'm just gonna say it, Pan is absolutely insufferable. She's a half human, or 3/4 human, quarter Saiyan, I don't know. Ball of constant overconfidence and unearned attitude. She always thinks she's right, constantly puts herself in danger, and somehow expects people to just go along with her impulsive decisions. We first meet her trying to go on a date. Despite being the granddaughter of a global celebrity, Mr. Satan, aka Hercule, the guy actually agrees. But right as things are getting started, a group of thugs decide to rob a bank in broad daylight. As Pan and her date are walking down the street, they realize that their way is blocked due to this bank robbery. So what does Pan do? She steps in and starts to take down the robbers. Meanwhile, Goku, who was at a local restaurant that just suddenly got destroyed, comes out to also stop the robbers. Pan, not recognizing her own grandfather, pulls him out of the way several times, before finally, she takes down the rest of the robbers with ease, and when she goes back to her date, he dumps her. Apparently, watching her take out a gang of armed criminals was just a bit too much. Not the smoothest start to a romance. Anyway, as all this is going on, Master Roshi, Goku's original martial arts teacher outside of his grandpa Gohan, yes, his son is named after his grandfather, spots Pan in the crowd and waves her down. Upon approaching Pan, Roshi slowly starts to realize who the kid is standing next to her. Roshi exclaims that it is Goku and is absolutely ecstatic at the fact that Goku looks exactly like he did when they first met. And Pan, she doesn't believe for a second that this 11-year-old looking kid is actually her grandfather. Despite, living in a world with aliens, flying martial artists, beam attacks, and wish-granting dragons. The episode wraps up with Goku returning home to break the news about his transformation and the threat of the Black Star Dragon Balls. The gang realizes that they've got 1 year to travel across the galaxy, retrieve all the Dragon Balls, and then bring them back. Otherwise, Earth is toast. This is the real kickoff point for GT. Oh, and if I haven't mentioned it yet, GT stands for Grand Tour, because that's what this arc is, an intergalactic scavenger hunt. And right out of the gate, there's a massive problem. The Black Star Dragon Balls were supposedly created by the nameless Namekian before he split into Kami and Piccolo, which would make them ancient, powerful, and dangerous. So why in the hell were they just sitting in the lookout like some forgotten paperweights? If Kami knew these things were a planet-destroying threat, why didn't he destroy them centuries ago? Why keep weapons of mass destruction in your attic? With the Earth's safety on the line, Bulma, Goku's childhood friend and the genius behind the Dragon Radar, teams up with Gohan and Videl to build a spaceship capable of traveling across the galaxy in search of the Black Star Dragon Balls. Meanwhile, Pan, constantly desperate to prove herself, keeps pestering everyone for something to do, but instead of being helpful, she just gets brushed off by her parents and Bulma, which causes her to go off sulking like a bored middle schooler. We also re-meet Trunks, the son of Vegeta and Bulma, and the current CEO of Capsule Corp. Even though he's essentially the head of the world's biggest corporation, Trunks clearly hates the desk job. He's itching for adventure, anything to escape the office life. At one point, Goku gets kidnapped by some goons who mistake him for Bulma's son or grandson and try to ransom him. It's a weird detour that's played for laughs, but it doesn't make a ton of sense, especially since their original target was Pan, a girl who has no real connection to Capsule Corp and is literally known for beating up grown men.
And eats like a boy.
Yeah, Dad is a boy. The girl jumped up and flew into the sky.
Flew into the sky? You've got the brain of a hamster.
Oh, and I should mention, Vegeta shows up with a new look. He's chopped off his iconic spiky hair and is now sporting a Freddie Mercury-style mustache. I'm sorry, but this feels so out of character for Vegeta. The proud Saiyan prince, showing up with the suburban dad stash, it's comedic, sure, but it's totally jarring. I'd also like to mention that Vegeta is one of my favorite characters and happens to be the only other pureblood Saiyan in the group. Eventually, the crew settles down on who's going into space. The plan? Goku, Trunks, and Goku's youngest son Goten. And just when it's finally time to launch the ship, Goten gets distracted by a phone call. And already having snuck into the cockpit, launches the ship herself, surprising Goku and Trunks with her presence. As the ship blasts into space, a random part falls off and lands at Bulma's feet. Brilliant way to start a space mission to save the entire planet. This is where I really started questioning what the writers were thinking. They had no source material to follow. They could have done anything. A simple title card saying 1 week later would have made the launch smoother and more believable. Instead, they go for forced comedy, clunky character decisions, and a tone that feels totally disconnected from the serious, high-stakes storytelling of DBZ. And that sets the tone for GT as a whole. Cartoonish, awkward, and filled with filler that doesn't land. So the crew blasts off into space with no real plan, just a broken ship and a planet-destroying deadline. Naturally, because of the mysterious part that fell off the ship, you know, the one they never explain.
No, of all the parts, why that one?
They crash land on a planet named Omega, and here is where the problems start stacking up. First of all, they had no long-range communication devices. None. DBZ had galactic communicators and tech that could contact planets across solar systems. But GT? Nah, no tech, no explanation, just whoops, I guess we can't call home. Immediately after landing, they're swindled out of a bunch of money. Don't ask me how they have universal currency, it's never really explained. And conveniently, after these episodes, the issue of money is never brought up again. They don't barter, steal, or run into cash problems again, so why include it at all? Just to pad out runtime? We learn that the planet is being ruled by a corrupt king named Don Key. Yes, pronounced like donkey, which it took me far too long to realize. Who taxes his people into becoming con artists just to survive. The team briefly debates helping and then decides, nah, not our problem, and just turns back to the ship. But then Pan, because of course it's Pan, asks Trunks if he even checked for a Dragon Ball on the planet. He says no, pulls out the Dragon Radar to prove it, trips, drops it, and introduces us to our next quirky side character, a tiny robot named T-2006. Who the crew immediately nicknames Gyro because he won't stop saying it like a Pokemon. Gyro eats the Dragon Radar. Seriously, he literally devours the most important item in their quest like it's a snack, and instead of obliterating this thing instantly, they're like, oh, let's talk to it. While they argue with the robot, bandits start stealing their ship. Goku tries to instant transmission to catch them, fails twice, and they fall flat on their faces. Why? Why is he even using instant transmission when all three of them can fly? It's one of the dumbest moments in the series. Like, why are you teleporting when you have actual flight? Just fly after the ship. Eventually, they realize that their ship was taken by Don Key's men, so they stealthily infiltrate his headquarters, and I'm using air quotes the size of Namek here. It's about anything but stealthy. They had retrieved their ship in an almost effortless escape, but not before one of Don Key's generals, Legic, realizes they're Saiyans. The problem is, the ship's missing more parts now thanks to the chop shop it got dragged into. Don Key won't just hand the parts over either, so obviously the team decides to get themselves arrested and storm the castle from the inside. It's all over the place, nothing feels cohesive, the pacing is weird, the threats aren't even that threatening, but finally after a decent fight scene with Legic, who was probably one of the few well-animated characters in this early arc, they beat him, free the people, get their parts, and leave. Oh, and Giru, he's now the Dragon Radar. Full-blown the Dragon Radar. And they cannot remove it from him. So they're gonna have to keep him around because I guess why not? The next handful of episodes go exactly how you'd expect. We bounce from one planet to another, collecting Dragon Balls with very little actual story progression. First, the crew visits a giant planet where Goku has to pull a Dragon Ball out of a literal giant's tooth. And yes, it's as dumb as it sounds. Then comes what I can only describe as a return to the original Dragon Ball. The gang ends up in a small village that's being terrorized by a creature named Tsunama. He's an oversized monster who demands that the villagers hand over one of their young women to marry, or else he'll destroy the entire place. Does it sound familiar at all? Oolong did this exact same thing, basically, within Dragon Ball. And the outcome was exactly the same as far as them retorting. To outsmart Tsunama, the team dresses Trunks in drag to pose as the sacrificial bride, who was Goku and admittedly did say something about it when the episode was happening. Still doesn't make it any better. And wouldn't you know it, Tsunama falls for the bait. But before things get too weird, it's revealed that he's not even that powerful. In fact, the real threat ends up being a volcano about to erupt, and Tsunama's just capable of detecting that. They save the village, grab the Dragon Ball, and just as they're about to peace out, boom, some mysterious character swoops in, steals a Dragon Ball, and flies off in their own spaceship. And now we're at episode 8. At this point, my patience with the crew, especially Pan, is wearing thin. She is an emotional wreck the entire time. One moment she's bossing everybody around like she's in charge, the next she's crying that we're all gonna die. Or I should say they are all going to die.
Oh, it's too late, we're doomed!
I can't help but think you forced your way onto this mission. You weren't even supposed to be here. Everyone tried to tell you. Trunks, meanwhile, is reduced to comic relief. Most of the actual ideas come from Goku or Pan, and Trunks is either confused, screwing something up, or just standing there being completely useless. Which is bizarre, considering this is future Trunks we're talking about. The same guy who single-handedly took out Frieza in DBZ and came from a timeline filled with death and survival. Here, he's corporate Ken. Understandably, he didn't grow up with all the death and survival, but, you know, hey, it's Trunks. He should be a little bit more badass. Goku is the only one who resembles his original self, and even that's a stretch. He still fights, but most of the time he just wants to eat. His obsession with food GT makes him feel more like a parody than a protagonist. Occasionally you see flashes of the passionate warrior from DBZ, but most of the time he's just there. So yeah, they watered down Goku and Trunks and wrote Pan like the world's most annoying sidekick. So remember that Dragon Ball that was stolen? Turns out the thieves are a trio called the Parapara brothers, Bon Parapara, Son Parapara, and Don Parapara, and let me just say this plainly. These are some of the worst enemies I've ever seen in Dragon Ball. Their entire gimmick is interpretive dance. No, seriously. They trap their opponent in a hypnotic dance loop while one of them sneaks up and just starts wailing on the target. It's like if Stomp the Yard turned into a death match. They're loud, ridiculous, and somehow GT plays them totally straight, like we're supposed to actually take these clowns seriously. Anyway, the Parapara brothers are working for some weirdo cult leader named Muchi Muchi, who's trying to resurrect a godlike creature named Lord Lude. He's gathering energy from his brainwashed followers to pull it off. Oh, and get this, Muchi Muchi isn't even a person. He's actually a whip that turns into a robot, or more specifically a mutant robot. The whip robot thing ends up being a subordinate of Daltaki, a walking red flag who looks like Evil Boo cosplaying as a Victorian pervert. Daltaki's whole shtick is turning people into dolls, and yes, that includes Pan, and yes, they make it disturbingly creepy. He giggles about changing your clothes and everything. It's uncomfortable, like real Chris Hansen energy.
Why don't you have a seat?
No, I just need to get home. I'm not doing the show.
Go ahead and take a seat.
But I'm not going to do this.
Take a seat right over there.
Eventually, Daltaki succeeds in reviving Lord Lude, and surprise, he's got another boss, because GT loves to stack villains like a Russian nesting doll of bad writing. That new boss is none other than Dr. Mew. Imagine if Dr. Gero from DBZ joined the Blue Man Group, dyed his hair orange, and started doing cosplay for a living. That's Dr. Mew. He's this mad scientist that's been watching the heroes this whole time, pulling strings from the shadows. Recap, we went from dancing alien clowns, to a cult leader whip robot, to a pedo doll collector, to an evil blue doctor, all in like 5 episodes. Daltaki, for all his creepiness, ends up getting punished by Mew for awakening Lord Lude at 2/3 power.
You should have let me sleep.
So what does Mew do? Throws everyone into the pot, literally, including Daltaki and Pan. Parapara brothers, who were already tossed in there, forced Daltaki to spill how to beat Lord Lude, and then Goku and Pan team up to take him down. They grab the Dragon Ball and move on, but now they know Dr. Mew is out there, watching, and clearly he has big plans. In the episode immediately following the defeat of Lord Lude, Pan and Giru go off on their own after the group lands on a desert planet, which they detect has a Dragon Ball. Her and Giru find the Dragon Ball. That's all. Moving on. The crew is flying past a planet when Giru suddenly pipes up, "Hey, that's my home planet. I'd really like to visit." So naturally, instead of staying focused on the literal Earth-destroying time crunch they're on, Pan begs Trunks to turn the ship around, and for some reason he agrees. They waste a full day of travel just to check it out. Keep in mind, they've only collected 3 Dragon Balls at this point, and it's episode 15. They land, and things immediately spiral. Turns out this planet is also the home of General Rildo, one of Dr. Mew's top mutant robot enforcers. He's been actively hunting the trio. The next set of events is technically important, but also a complete mess, so I'll condense the chaos. Rildo brings in Giru and praises him for luring the Saiyans to the planet. He even gives him a shiny medal for doing such a great job. Using battle data collected from watching the team fight, Rildo upgrades his mutant robots with their combat stats, giving his forces a major advantage. He sends his goons to capture them, Trunks and Goku get nabbed, Pan escapes. Pan then somehow infiltrates a high-security robot base on her own.
Why isn't anyone here? The situation doesn't compute.
Frees the guys and then attempts a daring escape. Goku fights Rildo's elite troops like they're nothing, so Rildo himself steps in. Now, here's the part that had me shaking my head. Goku claims Rildo is stronger than Majin Buu, which is wild because he never goes beyond Super Saiyan. Not Super Saiyan 2, not Super Saiyan 3, just plain old yellow hair. How does that make sense? Goku had to fight Majin Buu at Super Saiyan 3 just to keep up with Fat Buu, let alone Kid Buu. So the fact that he never goes Super Saiyan 3 in this fight alone either means that he has gotten way overpowered or Rildo is not as powerful as he's claiming he is. So the power scaling here is a little crazy. But anyway, at the very beginning of the fight, Rildo encases Trunks in carbonite. Wait.
All too easy.
No, I mean metal. Wrong franchise. He then ships him off to Dr. Mew while continuing his duel with Goku. Pan, while Goku is fighting Rildo, somehow retrieves both the Dragon Balls and Giru's medal, because she's continually trying to infiltrate the base, but once she gets to Giru, he uses a space-time converter of some kind to send her back to the entrance. Think of it like the Sealing Hands in The Legend of Zelda. Eventually, Rildo fuses with his own underlings to become his supreme form. He overpowers Goku, captures him and Pan, and then ships him off to Mew. He also ships Trunks, or maybe he already did. The continuity gets fuzzy here. People keep getting captured and uncaptured, so often it's like a Dragon Ball prison revolving door. Then, plot twist, Giru betrays his robot overlords and helps free Goku and Pan. During the breakout, Trunks gets knocked over and shatters like cheap porcelain, which is weird for metal. But don't worry, it was a decoy. The real Trunks was already released from his cold metal prison. Giru faked everything so he and Trunks could sneak off and find Mew's secret weapon. That weapon? A baby mutant. A mutant baby, literally named Baby. Yes, the big bad is a baby. We're now 22 episodes deep with only 3 Dragon Balls collected, and we finally get a real antagonist. And even then, we don't fight for a while. Now, look, I can appreciate a slow burn, but this isn't suspenseful. This is padding. It's plot twist on plot twist on plot twist. An M. Night Shyamalan spiral of bait and switch, reveals that end up feeling exhausting instead of engaging. Anyways, this is the point where I dropped off the show the first time I was watching. It was around here. I don't believe it may have been this exact episode, but up until now, it had been nothing but filler, terrible pacing, goofy villains, and characters acting like hollow versions of themselves. No real tension, no real sense of danger, and Goku hadn't even tried going Super Saiyan 2 or 3 once. But then something interesting finally happens. Trunks tells the group that Baby, the mysterious project Dr. Mew has been working on, is going to die soon. He secretly diverted power away from the incubation pod, thinking it'd stop Baby from awakening. Dr. Mew freaks out and does everything he can to revive the project. Goku, for some reason, asks if they can turn the power back on because he wants to fight Baby at least once. And because this show is allergic to logic, they stand around while Dr. Mew tries it. Just when things look bleak, Dr. Mew starts yelling about Saiyans, and Baby's eyes open. Once Baby emerges from the pod, Goku, Pan, and Trunks all jump him. It looks like they destroy him, but of course, they don't. Dr. Mew activates the slowest escape pod in anime history while everyone just stands around watching him escape. Naturally, a tiny piece of Baby latches onto him, and as Dr. Mew floats into space, Baby bursts out of his back like a xenomorph, kills him, and even coughs up a digitized Dragon Ball stored in his memory banks. Wait. What? Yeah, apparently they can digitize Dragon Balls now. Why they didn't do this for all 7 to prevent theft, no clue. But sure, let's pretend that makes sense. And then comes another plot twist. Baby wasn't created by Dr. Mew. He manipulated Mew into creating him. He planted the idea. He's been the puppeteer the whole time. So now Baby is loose in the galaxy, bouncing from body to body like a space parasite. He infects a wounded survivor aboard a ship that is derelict because of him, and using a Dragon Ball to lure our heroes, they, completely unaware, rush him to the nearest planet for medical help. Over the next few episodes, Baby hops between hosts looking for the perfect vessel. He even tries to possess Trunks, but Trunks powers up into a Super Saiyan and forces him out. With no better options nearby, Baby flees and makes his way to Earth, and this is where the story finally pivots. We move away from Goku, Trunks, and Pan hunting Dragon Balls in space, and follow Baby as he heads to Earth, determined to find and destroy the Saiyans. Unlike Mew's ambitions to rule the universe or to build the strongest machine, Baby's goals are personal. He hates Saiyans, and his obsession with wiping them out is about to take center stage. Once Baby arrives on Earth, the tone takes a noticeable shift. Gone are the zany space pirates and filler towns. This time the stakes feel real. Baby starts off by infecting a random citizen, hopping bodies until he finds someone strong enough to act as a temporary host. Meanwhile, back on Earth, we catch up with some familiar faces. Vegeta is now clean shaven. He ditched the mustache after his daughter Bola told him it looked bad, which, while goofy, adds a surprisingly wholesome girl dad moment to his character. I actually didn't hate it. Goten is out trying to go on a date because GT Goten exists solely to be interrupted. When chaos erupts, Baby starts destroying parts of the city, using his puppeted humans as weapons, one after another like boss waves in a beat-em-up game. Eventually, Goten is forced to fight Baby directly, and Baby, being a parasite, wants him to power up. That's the catch. Saiyans can only be infected if they hit peak power. Otherwise, they can expel him by transforming. So when Goten transforms into a Super Saiyan, boom, Baby seizes his opportunity. Now infected, Goten approaches Gohan, who has no clue what's going on. After a quick scuffle, Baby infects him too. Gohan doesn't even put up a fight, just gets bodied and taken over instantly. Piccolo shows up for like 5 seconds, tries to step in, and Baby Gohan casually nukes him with a Kamehameha. No death, no stakes, just poof. With Gohan and Goten under his control, Baby sets his sights on Vegeta. Vegeta, who's out casually driving a car with his daughter, yes, he's driving, must gotten that license, gets ambushed. Gohan reveals himself as Baby and attacks. And Vegeta, being Vegeta, immediately realizes what's going on. He recognizes Baby as a Tuffle and knows the history. He puts it together in seconds. Props to him. They fight. Goten joins the fray. Together, Goten and Gohan overwhelm Vegeta and infect him. And that's when Baby hits the jackpot. Now that he has Vegeta's body, it's game over. Baby transforms him piece by piece into his perfect host, starting with just a few face lines in order to begin the transmission. And honestly, it works. And for once, GT delivers on a setup and payoff. Baby's entire goal, to destroy the Saiyan race, makes sense. The backstory checks out, and possessing Vegeta, the Prince of Saiyans, adds real emotional weight. It ties back to the Tuffle genocide, the conflict with King Vegeta, and the sins of the past. For once, GT nails the villain motivation. In fact, this is probably the best part of the series so far, and probably the best part of the series in general. And for the first time since GT started, I actually feel myself getting hooked. While all this chaos has been happening on Earth, Goten getting possessed, Gohan falling without a fight, Vegeta getting jacked, Goku, Trunks, and Pan finally managed to gather the last of the Black Star Dragon Balls. We don't know how long it took, the show doesn't tell us, they just say, alright, that's the last one, and then they head back to Earth. They make a pit stop at Dende's lookout to drop off the Dragon Balls, completely unaware that the entire planet has already been taken over by Baby. Dende, infected. Mr. Popo, infected. Earth, totally gone. Meanwhile, Mr. Satan and Majin Buu are hiding out. Mr. Satan is hiding out inside Buu, and honestly, this part is kind of clever. Buu's body is the only place left untouched by Baby's infection, and he's apparently immune to it. He was housing one of Baby's parasitic eggs, but tosses it aside like trash, thinking it's a dud. Back at Capsule Corp, Trunks is immediately confronted by Vegeta, who drops the bomb that he is Baby.
I dropped the mask entirely.
And to make things worse, Trunks has already been infected. Baby tells him there's an egg inside of him that will soon hatch and take over his body permanently. As for Goku and Pan, they run into Goten and Gohan, who attack them on sight. Pan gets knocked out almost instantly, as usual, and Goku is forced to fight both of his sons while trying not to kill them. It's a rough moment, but things get even worse when Baby shows up, now fully in control of Vegeta's body. When Baby arrives on the scene, he tells Goku that he's going to kill him outright. No possession, no tricks, just death.
But not you. You don't deserve to live. I'll kill you with my own hands!
Unfortunately for Goku, his child-sized body doesn't have the required wherewithal to maintain Super Saiyan 3, and thus he burns through energy way too fast. Another thing GT gets completely wrong. Gotenks had no issue going and sustaining Super Saiyan 3 in a child's body. The resilience thing is bogus in my opinion, and if anyone is going to say, well, they were a fusion, all I have to say is that there are no other characters besides Goku and Gotenks that had gone Super Saiyan 3 prior. So even in this child body, it shouldn't have been an issue. Even if he was able to sustain Super Saiyan 3, Baby still would have beaten him down. Baby beats him down, no contest. And in true GT Goku fashion, as he's about to be executed, he just stares Baby in the face and talks. He says someone will rise up and beat him. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. And even Goku himself saying that he will come back and beat Baby. How he plans on doing this, I have no idea. But Baby doesn't take the bait. He opts to instead have Trunks, Goten, Bola, and Gohan pour all their energy into him so that he can take on a new form. Then, moments later, he asks for more power from the rest of the planet. I don't know why he didn't just have this all in one go. GT logic. Now with the red and white armor, the blue eyes, white dragon hair, blue eyes and white hair, more face lines, and a malicious grin, it's a full-blown transformation. He blasts Goku point blank and drops him into the Earth's core using what I can only describe as a negative spirit bomb, dubbed the Revenge Death Ball. Super on the nose, guys. At this point, things have gone from silly to full dystopia. Baby, with no more opposition, believing Goku is dead, has Dende bring him the Black Star Dragon Balls. He then wishes for the original Tuffle homeworld to be brought back and placed in Earth's orbit. He then has Bulma construct a spaceship to transport all of his newly infected Tuffles over to the new old world, and for the first time in GT, the good guys have really lost. And that is when GT finally gets interesting. Well, almost. So after Goku gets absolutely stomped by Baby, we find out, surprise, he's still alive. He's also just kind of chilling. No burns, no trauma, just vibing. Kibito Kai shows up just in time to teleport Goku to the sacred world of Kais for training. But he drops him. Much like Trunks, Kibito Kai too has become a bumbling fool. Goku finds himself in Sugoroku space where to survive, he must play, but is explicitly told not to cheat. After several rounds of rolling a die attempting to get further to the end of the game, Goku almost accidentally drops the die into a pool of lava. This causes the die, which is actually the other player's son, to stop before hitting the lava and fly back up. Upon attempting this a second time, the die transforms into a green alien with the largest outie belly button I've ever seen. This is the true form of Tsushiguro, who is the son of the player against Goku, Suguro. Suguro then turns into a green outie boy, which are apparently shape-shifting space lemurs. Sure. Okay, sure, why not? So anyways, once Goku accuses Suguro of cheating, the whole dimension starts to fall apart because reasons. Goku then saves himself, Suguro, and Tsushiguro from the collapsing realm, and Kibito Kai's taxi service instant transmissions to them just in time. Upon returning to the sacred land of the Kais, the Elder Kai, remember? The ancient perv sealed in the Z-Sword, says the only way Goku can get stronger is by regrowing his tail. Yeah, we're really doing this. At this point on the now Tuffle planet, Pan is flying around throwing laxatives in people's mouths in an attempt to drive out Baby from the Earthlings. And it's such a terrible plan that even Mr. Satan says it is, which is saying something.
Oh no, what a stupid plan, Boo!
Oob comes out to fight Baby, which goes about as well as a toddler going up against Mike Tyson. But what happens? Majin Buu fuses with Oob to form the super powerful Maju, who, after fighting Baby for a second time, gets his attack turned on him, turning him into chocolate, and gets eaten. Just debuted his hero career, and it's not off to a great start. This prompts Goku to freak out and tell the Elder Kai that they need to get his tail out now. So what do? They whip out a comically large pair of pliers, which, by the way, is Tsushiguro, and they manually yank Goku's tail out of his body. Apparently, this will unlock his Great Ape transformation and with it more power. Let me pause here for just a second. First, Majin Buu sacrificing himself to fuse with Oob should have had more of an emotional response, but it fell flat. They just had him say, Buu will always be Mr. Satan's best friend, with a short montage of DBZ footage. But there should have been more to it, more substance, where Hercule, instead of just playing the idiot, and by far the closest character to DBZ than anyone thus far, realizing he's never going to see his friend again, and pleading with him not to leave. But that's just me. Second, In DBZ, Saiyan's tails were a big deal. They controlled the Oozaru transformation, sure, but they were also fragile. Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, everyone's tail got yanked off like a weed at some point. And now GT is saying pulling it back out is the secret to going God mode. Cool, just saying. And also, I'd like to take a second to reflect on the length of time it takes for Saiyan's tails to regrow, because that was a thing multiple times in Dragon Ball and DBZ. It's under a year, just like their time in space. Anyways, once the tail's back, Goku returns to fight Baby. He immediately goes Super Saiyan 3 and gets stomped again. And while laying on the ground whining about how pulling out his tail didn't help at all, his tail then twitches. He looks up at Earth and suddenly starts transforming into a Great Ape. A golden Great Ape. This isn't the usual mindless Oozaru rage beast. Well, at first it is. He goes on a rampage firing homing fire blasts like he's playing a modded version of Galaga, which is entirely a new technique according to my understanding of Great Apes. But then Pan shows up and tries to snap him out of it twice. On her second try, she pulls out her old martial arts gi, the one she wore at the World's Martial Arts Tournament where Goku left with Oob. In it is a photo of the family at the beach, which falls out. Goku grabs, sees, regains control, and let's cue the music.
It's useless. I guess his heart turned into an animal with the rest of him.
And then just like that, we get Super Saiyan 4. Adult Goku, red fur, black hair, golden eyes, tail included, and yeah, I'll admit, Super Saiyan 4 looks awesome. As a kid, I thought it was the coolest form in the franchise, and honestly, it still kinda is. It's primal, powerful, and raw, and none of the other color-swapped hairdos of Super have matched. However, Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, or Super Saiyan Blue, is a very close second. Though, I do have one question. Where did his pants come from? Whatever, moving on. Goku fights Baby again, but this time, he's the one doing the stomping. No contest. Baby's finally on the ropes. For once in GT, the good guy actually feels like he's earned his win. So, with Baby backed into a corner, and no one puts Baby in a corner,
nobody puts Baby in a corner.
Bulma shows up with a device called the Blitz Wave Generator, sometimes mistranslated as the Flux Wave Generator, but either way, it's space magic. The energy needed for the Oozaru transformation. She blasts Baby with Blitz Waves, and boom, he transforms into a golden ape, just like Goku. Yep, we're going ape on ape now. Now, here I call some more BS. If Baby is in Vegeta's body and Vegeta doesn't have a tail, how is he transforming? Wouldn't it make more sense if Baby used his control of Vegeta's body to regrow the tail himself? Instead, we're told Bulma just somehow beams the power into him, bypassing the tail requirement entirely. Cool, science.
Science rules.
Baby briefly loses control of himself and starts wrecking his own Tuffle City, which, ironically, is filled with the Earthlings he's infected. The animators, clearly on a time crunch, rendered this animation that would have passed for epic on Newgrounds. It's bad, like early Flash era bad. Eventually, Baby regains his mind and claims that he let the chaos happen on purpose, just to test his new form. Sure, buddy, we've all used that excuse. Now fully in control, Baby and Goku resume their battle. And to GT's credit, the fight between Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Golden Grade 8 Baby is one of the best in the series. It's brutal, massive in scale, and even though Baby is stronger, the two are actually evenly matched for once. Meanwhile, Kibito Kai is running around with the Sacred Water, the exact same plot device from the Garlic Jr. filler arc in DBZ. Yep, the same magical water that once purified the Blackwater Mist is now being used to free Earthlings from Baby's control. It works too. Dende and Mr. Popo get cured, and the Kai keeps going, eventually reaching Goten, Gohan, and Trunks. They're freed too. Again, using a literal DBZ filler mechanic, you can't make this up. Back on the battlefield, Baby and Goku both start to wear down. Bulma zaps Baby with another dose of those Blitz Waves, and suddenly Goku is on the ropes. He's losing ground fast. Just when it looks like the end, Gohan, Goten, and Trunks show up and propose a team attack. Goku says, nah, just give me your energy. They agree, knowing that Super Saiyan 4 is their best shot. And then, Baby tries to interrupt with a Super Gallic Gun. But then, plot twist, Majub appears from inside Baby. Yep, turns out he let himself get eaten earlier on purpose just to sabotage Baby from the inside. Honestly, it's kinda clever, but despite somebody having thought ahead, it's really lucky that Goku didn't just blast him into oblivion, killing Majub in the process. And Vegeta for that matter. Anyways, Baby purges Maju and manages one last desperate attack, but the distraction buys Goku and the boys just enough time to power up, and he finally finishes the job. Rather than kill Baby and risk harming Vegeta, Goku blasts off Baby's tail, which forcibly ejects him from Vegeta's body. And the parasite's final moments? Pathetic. He hijacks a spaceship, flees into space, and Goku fires one last Kamehameha that sends him straight to the sun. Good riddance. Alright, so after all the monkey madness ends and Baby is yeeted into the sun, you'd think the planet is safe. Nope. Turns out the Black Star Dragon Balls still have a massive unresolved side effect. If the Dragon Balls aren't brought back to the planet they were used on within 1 year, that planet explodes, and Baby used them on Earth. Oops. And it's been nearly a year since the wish was made, which again, time. How much time has passed in this series? I have no idea. I feel like there's been probably about 5 years in the series, but in the span of 64 episodes, there's no way of knowing because they never give you any time markers. Regardless, there's no way they'll be able to collect all 7 Dragon Balls again in time. Even worse, they don't even bother explaining why they didn't just wish the Black Star Dragon Balls back to Earth with the Namekian Dragon Balls. Or, you know, restore the Earth from orbit before it blows up. Whatever. But instead of solving their problems with logic or power, the solution is a mass evacuation. They decide to shuttle every person on the Earth to the newly terraformed Tuffle planet, and the same one Baby created with his wish. Everyone's loaded up and moved off-world except for one person, Piccolo. Piccolo chooses to stay behind and die with the Earth because his existence is linked with the Black Star Dragon Balls. If he dies, they're erased permanently. Now, narratively speaking, this is probably the most Dragon Ball thing GT has done. It gives us a real sacrifice, one with stakes and emotional payoff, but even that gets undercut by the fact that they don't spend nearly enough time with Piccolo before this. He'd been missing for most of the series, so it doesn't nearly hit as hard as it could have. Also, let's not ignore the obvious question here. Why didn't they just go to New Namek, use their Dragon Balls, and wish the Black Star Dragon Balls out of existence months ago? Oh, right, because that would have been smart, and GT doesn't do smart. So, Piccolo dies, Earth explodes, and now everyone's stuck on a planet that was literally created by the villain who tried to enslave them. But don't worry, Namek's Dragon Balls get used to wish Earth back into existence again. So what was the point of any of this? GT logic strikes again. Just when it seems the world might be finally getting a break, boom, the gates of hell burst wide open. Why? Because apparently Dr. Gero and Dr. Mew are now besties in the afterlife. I guess villain team-ups continue even in death. The two scientists somehow use their combined ghost science skills to create a second android in Hell. Don't ask how, it's GT logic. This new Hell 17 syncs with the original Android 17 on Earth, allowing them to create Super 17. And of course, Super 17 is taller, has longer hair, and talks even less than regular 17. Classic evil upgrade. Together, the twins rip open a literal gateway between Hell and Earth. This lets a bunch of old villains escape and start wreaking havoc, perfect for padding the runtime with low-effort nostalgia. Back in Hell, the Mad Doctors bait Goku into coming down, or is it up, to fight Cell and Frieza. It's a fun throwback, but almost completely one-sided. Goku mops the floor with them, even after they start awkwardly spamming techniques that they stole from other characters like it's Smash Bros. Goku even calls them out. Are you trying to pass off one of my friend's moves as your own? Which is hilariously ironic coming from the guy whose entire moveset is basically stolen. After that, Goku tries to leave, but King Yama says nope. Apparently even being Goku isn't enough to bend the rules anymore. So Piccolo, who's now chilling in heaven after the Black Star fiasco, pretends to be evil just to trick the afterlife system into letting him go help Goku. Why? Because bureaucracy. They succeed in busting Goku out, but not before we see a random Dragon Ball crack in a field somewhere with no explanation. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Super 17 starts demolishing the Z-Fighters one by one. Goten, Trunks, Oob, none of them can do anything. The android just tanks everything and absorbs their energy like he's farming XP. Krillin dies, 18 freaks out, and then she tries to fight Super 17 herself. Honestly, props to 18. She gets one of the most emotionally grounded moments in the whole arc. She calls 17 weak for letting him be controlled again, and it finally gets through to him. He turns on Dr. Mew and kills him. This is of course after he's already killed Dr. Gero for the second time, after Dr. Mew reveals that only he can control him. And then, in typical fashion, the show goes full stupid again.
Cool, blimey. Nerd alert!
18 fires off a dozen beam attacks, all of which Super 17 absorbs like he's doing a warm-up set. Goku realizes this is his chance. If 17 is absorbing attacks, he can't defend himself. So Goku pulls out his new finishing move, the Super Dragon Fist. It's basically a giant golden dragon that launches from his fist like an ethereal falcon punch. It looks sick. It punches a hole through 17's torso. Goku then follows it up with a Kamehameha just to be sure.
Yes, we did it, Krillin.
And that's it. Crisis averted. So what do our heroes do next? Gather the Dragon Balls again. Because, you know, the Earth's been blown up, rebuilt, warped by parasites, and now overrun with demon ghosts. Time to clean it all up with another wish. So they gather the Dragon Balls, only to find out they're cracked. That's right. After all the garbage Earth has gone through, the Dragon Balls themselves are now damaged. Naturally, instead of saying, hey, maybe let's not use these magic orbs that look like they're about to explode, they summon Shenron anyways. But instead of the usual majestic green wish-granting dragon, they get a cloud of evil black smoke, and out comes a jacked, corrupted Shenron that looks like he's been running a crime syndicate in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. To really sell how evil this version is, they give him a cigar and a Zippo. I'm not kidding. He tells the Z-Fighters he won't be granting any wishes. Instead, he's going to destroy the Earth. Again, apparently, because the Dragon Balls have been overused, they've built up negative energy and the magic backlash has corrupted them. Each of the 7 cracked Dragon Balls becomes its own shadow dragon, 7 corrupted monsters born from past wishes. So now, instead of solving problems, the Dragon Balls are the problem. And you'd think the Elder Kai might have mentioned this earlier, but no. He waits until after the corrupted dragon shows up to give the lecture. He scolds the gang, saying the Dragon Balls were only ever meant to be used once every 100 years, and blames Bulma for inventing the Dragon Radar and making it so easy to find them, because clearly the teenage girl from Dragon Ball is responsible for all universal imbalance. Bulma tries to deflect blame, as anyone would, but Goku, of course, steps up and takes responsibility for everything, because of course he does. That's his thing now. And look, I get it. It's meant to be dramatic, but blaming Bulma, who was like 15 when she invented the Dragon Radar, is like blaming Galileo for global warming because he made a telescope. It's just ridiculous. Also, if the balls are supposed to be used once a century, maybe have them go inert for 100 years, not one. That feels like a design flaw. Anyway, Goku sets out to fix the mess by hunting down the 7 shadow dragons. Only problem, he can't sense their energy, which might have killed the whole plan if not for Pan showing up with the Dragon Radar, aka Giru. And just like that, the Grand Tour 2 Electric Shenron Boogaloo begins. With Goku and Pan back on the road, they begin their hunt for the 7 shadow dragons, and let's be honest, this arc starts off with a whimper, not a bang. Each dragon is born from a specific wish, tainted by negative energy. Cool concept. Problem is, GT takes that concept and immediately runs it into the ground with a string of one-note Monster of the Week battles. To keep things moving, let's blitz through the first 4. Number 1, Hey Shenron, 2-star dragon. Wish, reviving Upa's father after he was killed by Mercenary Tao in OG Dragon Ball. Hey Shenron's big power, he pollutes the environment around him. Just walking near him makes you feel like you're breathing through a diesel exhaust pipe. The pollution saps energy, which makes Goku and Pan progressively weaker. Even worse, it's so thick Pan can't do anything useful. Not that she's done much useful all season. Eventually, Giru, remember him? He's the Dragon Radar, leads them to a magic spring beneath a lake that restores their power. I'd also like to make mention here that suddenly Pan has the ability to communicate with Goku telepathically, which is very much a stretch, considering there were several times throughout the series that telepathy could have been very useful for all of the gang. But alas, who am I to judge GT's logic? They jump out of the water like a rejuvenated boy band and blast Hey Shenron to dust. Design-wise, Haze looks like a moldy frog who skipped leg day. Hard pass. 2. Rage Shenron, 5-star dragon. Wish, Goku's resurrection to fight Vegeta and Nappa during the Saiyan Saga. This one's a little more interesting. Rage is coated in an electric slime goop that serves as both armor and offense. Think Nickelodeon Gak with a fuse box. He creates a giant outer casing made of a lightning-charged muck. Pan and Goku struggle to make a dent until they figure out a genius tactic. Make it rain. Literally. They cause a thunderstorm that shorts him out. They don't actually make it rain. The storm rolls in and basically bro caps himself, so that's the end of Rage. When he's down, Rage tries a final sneak attack on Pan, but Goku blows him up mid-lunge with a Kamehameha. One Dragon Ball down, one monster bird electrocuted, moving on. Number 3, Omega Shenron, 6-star Dragon Ball. Wish, the very first wish made with the Dragon Balls, when Oolong wished for a pair of panties off a hot babe. Yes, you heard that right, an entire deadly shadow dragon was born from underwear. Oceanus has 2 forms, and spends time manipulating a fishing village into luxury independence, kind of like Dragon Ball's version of a scam influencer. But Goku and Pan wipe her out by the end of the episode, barely an inconvenience. She looks more like a fashionista water spirit than a dragon. Credit for uniqueness, I guess. Number 4, Omega Shenron, 7-star Dragon Ball. Nachuron? I don't even know how to say this name properly, but Wish, reviving everyone Majin Vegeta killed at the martial arts tournament. Nachuron is a naked mole rat looking beast that causes earthquakes and burrows underground. He at some point kidnaps Pan and possesses her, forcing Goku into a moral dilemma: fight the dragon and risk killing his granddaughter. It could have been an emotional moment, but GT breezes through it like it's just Tuesday. Eventually, Nachuron gets too cocky and reveals Pan just long enough for Goku to rescue her and blast him into oblivion. By this point, it's obvious these dragons are just padding the arc. Each fight lasts around 2 episodes, has a weird gimmick, and ends the same way: beam struggle, explosion, one-liner, rinse, repeat. But next up, the big leagues, the final 3 Shadow Dragons. Actual stakes, real power, some attempt at character work, and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, kinda. We've reached the final 11 episodes, and thankfully the series stops goofing around, mostly. All 3 remaining Shadow Dragons, Nova, Ice, and Sin, appear in the same location, beginning with the most compelling of the bunch. Omega Shenron, 4-star dragon. Wish origin, the one that restored King Piccolo's youth. Goku and Pan arrive in a decimated city where Nova is waiting. From the start, he feels different, calm, composed, and honorable. He respects Goku, he wants a fair fight, and even avoids harming civilians, which is good for Pan because she manages to get herself knocked out almost instantly, again. Nova unleashes his full power and transforms from a deep red into a gold-scaled beast with purple membrane wings. He's powerful, and he actually lets Goku recover during the fight. A rarity for GT villains. They're about to have a proper duel. But cue random Vegeta flashback episode. Inexplicitly, the show cuts away to episode 55, which focuses entirely on Vegeta being moody because he can't go Super Saiyan 4. Or Super Saiyan, I'm not really sure. It's kind of confusing. They show him go Super Saiyan, but then they say he can't. So maybe it was a translation error. Bulma finds him sulking and casually suggests blasting him with blitz waves to trigger the transformation.
Whoa, I don't want to be reminded of that face.
Side note, they say that only a pure-blooded Saiyan can hit Super Saiyan 4, which honestly makes more sense than half of what GT's lore is involved. Most of the episode is recycled DBZ flashbacks. Vegeta agrees to the experiment and Bulma gets to work on the machine. Meanwhile, back to Nova and Goku. Their fight is interrupted when Ice Shenron, the 3-star dragon, shows up and sucker punches Pan to steal the Dragon Balls. Ice was born from the wish that was used to erase the memories of Majin Buu's rampage on Earth and everyone except the Z-Fighters. Ice and Nova are brothers, with Ice representing ice and Nova representing fire, and they look near identical, except one's blue and the other's red or gold, depending on how he feels that day. When Ice arrives on the scene, he initially freezes Goku bit by bit, which Goku tries to play off as no big deal bro, when clearly it is after he's completely encased. Ice gives Nova a chance to eliminate their foe, but instead Nova says, "Nah bro, this isn't fair," and he uses his fire blast to release Goku from his cold prison. Goku then states he will take down Ice in 10 seconds, nay 5 seconds, and then says, "Ask me in about a minute," which is like, come on man, pick a lane, which is most of how I felt while watching the show. After totally dominating Ice, which took longer than 1 minute, but who really knows on how long it took because time is a fabrication in this series. Ice pleads with Goku to let him go if he gives up his Dragon Ball. Nova requests Goku let him go because they are brothers, but just as Goku is about to let Ice go, Ice starts fighting dirty and blinds Goku. So Goku punches a hole through him and game ends him right there. Brutal. Moments later, Nova gives him an antidote to the attack which should help relieve his blindness. Nova, still playing by his honor code, says they'll resume their fight later when Goku is at full strength. But before he can leave, Saiyan Shenron appears, one-star dragon, reviving all the Namekians killed by Frieza's army. And just like that, Nova is dead, murdered by Sin in one hit, which also causes Goku to drop the antidote that Nova had just given him, not giving him a chance to use it and cure his blindness. Sin is the final dragon, the strongest, the embodiment of the Dragon Ball's negative energy, and now Goku's blind, down a Dragon Ball, and facing the ultimate threat. What follows is GT at its messiest and most excessive. After having battled till he couldn't battle anymore, Goku is about to be laid to rest by Sin. Everyone comes out of the woodwork at this point. Trunks, Gohan, Goten, Maju, but wait, there's more, Chi-Chi and Videl. Walking collateral damage. But yeah, we needed everyone here for the most intense battle of battles. Just the fate of the world, guys, no biggie. So what do? The same tired concept. Pour all of their energy from the major contenders into Goku. But this time, he wants everything they have to offer. After getting powered up yet again, thanks to Saiyan energy donations, Goku regains Super Saiyan 4 and goes full force on Saiyan Shenron. And for a moment, it feels like we're getting somewhere. But nope. Plot twist. I swear they probably could have gotten M. Night Shyamalan to sign off on making a movie about this. Sin reveals his final trump card. He absorbs all 7 Dragon Balls, swallowing them like a pack of Tic Tacs. The balls revert to their negative state, and Sin evolves into Omega Shenron, the ultimate fusion of all the Shadow Dragon's powers, now wielding every elemental gimmick the arc introduced. Goku, still half blind, tries to fight him. He gives it everything he's got. He even gets his vision back mid-fight, but it's not enough. Omega is just too strong, so Goku prepares to sacrifice himself with a full-force self-destruction technique, ready to take out Omega with him. And right as he's about to do it, Vegeta shows up. He stops Goku and declares it won't work. Moments later, Bulma and her conveniently portable Blitzwave generator arrive. Vegeta gets blasted, turns into a Great Ape, and after the required minute of growling and flailing, he transforms into Super Saiyan 4. And again, where did his pants come from? I'm submitting this to Unsolved Mysteries at this point. Vegeta looks Goku dead in the eye and says words I never thought I'd hear. "Let's fuse, Kakarot." What? They do the fusion dance and nail it on the first try, because of course they do, and become Gogeta. They never actually say his name, but come on, it's Gogeta. He's ridiculous. He's overpowered. He's glowing red and white with Super Saiyan 4 swagger. Omega Shenron can't lay a hand on him. And what does Gogeta do with all this power? He fires party poppers at Omega. No. Seriously, confetti blasts, giggle fits. Goku and Vegeta, fused into the most powerful being in the series, waste time goofing off instead of finishing the fight. Eventually they go to launch the final attack, but they defuse mid-charge. Unreal. Somehow, during the chaos, Gogeta knocks the Dragon Balls out of Omega, reverting him back into Sin. When Sin draws the Dragon Balls back in, Goku catches and then swallows the 4-star Dragon Ball because GT decided that we're not done with stomach-based plot devices. Then, get this, Goku suggests they fuse again, and Vegeta refuses. Let me repeat that. Vegeta, who literally suggested fusion less than 2 episodes ago, suddenly refuses. No reason, just nah, I'm good bro, I don't want to do that dumb dance again. It's one of the dumbest reversals in the entire series, and that's saying something. Goku reverts back to his childhood form after 2 failed fusion attempts, once he gets Vegeta to reluctantly agree, and it's starting to look like it's over. Just then, the 4-star Dragon Ball appears in Goku's forehead, and then Nova Shenron emerges from Goku's forehead. Yes, his forehead. Apparently, the 4-star Dragon Ball decided to fight back and eject Nova as a last-ditch effort. Nova pretends to join Omega, then traps him in a blazing inferno. Omega escapes by forcing the Dragon Balls into Nova's body, which effectively he takes it over, allowing him to survive the heat of the attack, and recapturing the 4-star Dragon Ball, once again making his power complete. At this point, Vegeta loses his Super Saiyan 4 form. Omega's unstoppable again, he takes Goku down first with his most powerful attack. The Z-Fighters then throw everything they've got at him, but nothing sticks. Vegeta gets impaled, all hope seems lost, and then Goku starts charging up a Spirit Bomb. And not just any Spirit Bomb, a super ultra mega Spirit Bomb fueled by the energy from the entire universe. It's the kind of power that we've never seen before, except for maybe with his fight with Frieza, but who's counting? conveniently accessible in the final moments. As Omega readies one final attack, Goku rises from a massive crater untouchable, glowing and unshaken. He launches the Spirit Bomb, Omega is vaporized instantly, no drama, no comeback, just deleted. The Dragon Balls fall to the ground, back to their original state, and then, without being summoned, Shenron appears. But it's not the usual 3 wishes entrance. This time, Shenron is here to lecture. He tells them that their over-reliance on the Dragon Balls caused the creation of the Shadow Dragons, and that the Earth's people need to stop using them as a cosmic crutch. That he was now leaving, and he would return someday after a long time. Goku asks to go with Shenron on his mysterious journey, and Shenron agrees. And just like that, Goku leaves. Vegeta totally freaks out, saying, "Are you going off to train again?" But Goku just smiles and says, "They're in your hands now." No one stops him, no one questions it. Then begins the most bizarre sequence in all of GT. Goku visits Master Roshi's house and spars with Krillin one last time. Don't ask me how Krillin's alive or why he's not with his wife and daughter, but he's just chilling with Master Roshi. He stops by Hell to talk to Piccolo, who gets about 12 seconds of screen time and 0 closure. Goku lays down on Shenron's back, says he's tired, and then the Dragon Balls begin to float into his body, disappearing one by one. Yes, into his body. And then he vanishes. Pan finds his gi left behind on the ground, his final memento. Someone tells her to hold on to it. I never really caught who, and I didn't feel like going back to find out who, but they did say he'll need it someday. Flash forward 100 years later. The last scene of the series takes place at a World Martial Arts tournament. We're introduced to Goku Jr. and Vegeta Jr., the great-great-grandkids of our heroes. They both go Super Saiyan because of course they can. Pan, now elderly, watches from the stands. She spots someone across the crowd. It's Goku. She rushes over to see if it's really him, but he's gone. We follow Goku, now in his classic adult form, silently walking away. The narrator speaking of his past triumphs, while flashbacks from Dragon Ball and DBZ roll in a montage, like the closing of a saga. He calls for Nimbus, jumps on it, and soars into the sky. The narrator tells us that Goku is out there, watching, and waiting for the Earth to need him again, and we fade to black. Holy hell. Let's unpack this roller coaster. GT didn't just jump the shark, it fused with it. It went Super Saiyan 4 and then yeeted it into a shadow dimension, and somehow it still landed with the strange sense of finality. So, was it really that bad? Look, Dragon Ball GT is not the worst thing ever made. It had some cool ideas, and I won't lie, the final shot of Goku flying off on Nimbus with that nostalgic montage kinda hit. But for every good moment, there were 5 baffling ones. Characters feel like husks of who they once were, power scaling is completely busted, the plot constantly undercuts itself, and at times it reads like a fanfic that got out of hand. Complete with evil dragons, a resurrection of Earth, a space parasite, and Goku swallowing artifacts like he's playing Kirby Xenoverse Edition. The show had potential, but it got lost in its own mess of rewrites, filler arcs, and narrative whiplash. How I'd have fixed it? Well, for starters, I'd ditch the Black Star Dragon Balls. Make it a grounded continuity from the end of Z. Maybe Pilaf still accidentally wishes Goku into a kid, and even causes the need for them to track down the Dragon Balls through space. But instead of just focusing on the galaxy-spanning scavenger hunt, we get a character-driven story instead. Use Baby earlier, develop Oob, make one transformation the focal point, build to it, don't just slap it on with a tail yank and call it lore. Cut Super 17 entirely. Tie the cracking of the Dragon Balls to Baby's wish for the Tuffle planet. Let that slowly unravel the integrity of the Dragon Balls, leading to the Shadow Dragons. It makes more sense narratively, thematically, and emotionally. And maybe, just maybe, end the show with Goku staying dead for once, and let somebody else carry the torch. Now, something that I haven't talked about in any length is Dragon Ball Super, the official continuation by Akira Toriyama himself. Super reclaims the tone, pacing, and character work that made Z iconic. GT was quietly swept under the rug and left as a curious what-if in the fandom timeline. Even now, GT lingers in the background, its influence seen in Super Saiyan 4 inspired ideas reused in Super for the Super Saiyan God transformation ritual, and maybe even Dragon Ball Daima, which looks like they're trying to redeem the Goku as a kid again angle and have even brought elements of Super Saiyan 4 into canon. I haven't watched much of Daima yet, so I can't really speak on that subject, but I will be watching it soon, because now having finished this video, I need another video to go into. Probably won't be my next one, but it'll probably be one that comes out sooner than later. Anyways, So why talk about GT at all? Because I wanted to, because I grew up on this franchise, because I wanted to give it a fair shot, and honestly, despite how many times I cringed at the screen or hit rewind to check if I heard that line right, I did have fun. I didn't hate GT, but I also didn't love it. I respect what it tried to be. I appreciate what it almost became, and I understand why younger me might have liked it more. But at the end of the day, GT is what happens when a franchise forgets what made it special. The stakes feel fake, the characters feel hollow, the world building gets tossed out like last week's filler arc. It's a show that constantly tries to recapture Z's magic but doesn't understand what made that magic work. It's not all bad. The baby arc had potential, Super Saiyan 4 is a cool concept, and the soundtrack, low-key fire. But overall, GT is a half-hearted, poorly executed, narratively bankrupt detour that left Dragon Ball in limbo for over a decade. So yeah, it sucks, but at least now I know. And if you don't believe me, watch it for yourself. Thanks for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate your time and your patience. More videos coming out soon, but until then, I'll be here. Catch you next time.